Hey, what's going on? And welcome to video 5 in our tutorial series for creating a Flutter to-do list application in the MVVM design pattern. In the previous video, we went over and actually added the functionality of adding new tasks to our view model's list of tasks in the form of a bottom sheet that captures information from a text field and then adds it into the list of tasks. But we currently have no way of actually displaying that data to the user. So what we're going to do is let's just take a look at our final product here. And as we can see here, we have a list of tasks with a background that's just slightly gray with a corner radius that just gives a little bit of a style to our application. So we're going to be implementing this in the space that is currently blue in our application. And yeah, let's just get started. The first thing we're going to want to do is in our view section, we're going to want to go ahead and create a new file called task list view.dart, and within that task list view.dart file, we're going to create a new stateless widget called task list view. And similar situation here, because we want the information from the view model, we're going to have to wrap all of our information in a consumer. And let's just create a consumer. And again, we have to be explicit about the type. So we're going to say app view model. And then for our builder, we're going to have context value in child. We've done this a couple times now, but let's go ahead and make sure that the value is set to view model. That way we know what the value we're referencing is. And now within this consumer, we're just going to go ahead and return an empty container for now. After we do this, what we're going to want to do is go into our task page.dart file, and we can finally replace our placeholder here, which is what contains our blue color. We can replace this with that widget that we just created. So let's replace this with task list view. And if we save this and then reload, we're going to see that it just kind of defaults to white or whatever the scaffold's background color is, because it doesn't have any information within this task list view yet. It has nothing except for an empty container. So let's start building out our task list view. And the first thing we're going to want to do is create this slightly gray background with this corner radius. So the first thing we're going to do is go into our task list view, and we're going to provide a decoration. Now the decoration is going to be a box decoration, and it's going to take in a color from the view model, and the view model color that we're going to use is the color level 2, and we're going to provide a border radius as well. And now for the border radius, we're just going to want to target the top because that's the only corner that we want to basically have curved. So we're going to say border radius dot vertical, and we're going to again target the top here and set the radius equal to a circular radius with a radius of 30. So if we save that, this is what our current task view list or task list view widget looks like. And if we save that and reload, if you're able to notice, it's kind of a really small change. It's kind of hard to see at this present moment, but it's slightly gray and the corners are slightly curved as well. Again, it's a very small difference. I just thought we'd do that first before moving on to creating the child and the list view. So from here, what we're going to want to do is underneath the box decoration, or really just the decoration in general, we're going to provide our child. And our child in this case is going to be a separated list view. And now we have a couple of different options. When selecting a list view, we can use just a general list view with the builder. Or we can go crazy and make a custom one. We're going to be using a separated one, which gives us the ability to provide a widget to separate all of our list view items. But as you can see in the final product, all we have is just some empty space in between each one. So that's all we're really going to provide. So within our separator builder, all we need to do is basically just return an empty sized box. So we can just do sized box. And we can provide a height of 15, which is how much each list item will be separated by. If you want to change how much each of these list items are separated, you can just change the height right here. The next thing we're going to want to do is provide an item count. Now we're going to get the item count from the length of the lists or from the length of the list of tasks within our view model. But we don't just want to reference the list of tasks directly. If we hop into our view model, what we're going to want to do if we just go underneath these colors here, because we want to return an integer that is representing how many tasks we have, what we're going to do is just say int get and we're going to say num tasks, and then we're just going to go ahead and return the length of our tasks array. So if we go tasks.length, we now have a reference to the number of tasks that we have inside of our view model. So if we go back into our task list view.dart file, and then for the item count, we can just reference our view model again, and then get our number of tasks that way. And now we're almost there. All we're going to want to do from this point is provide our item builder. I'm going to go ahead and move that item builder down a little bit to be below the item count. So underneath the item count, I'm going to have the item builder, and the item builder is just going to take in a context and an index, and it's going to return a widget again. So it's just going to return a widget. Nothing too crazy is happening here. So if we just return a container, and as long as we're providing a height and a width, so let's just say height will be 50 and the width will be 50. Let's provide a color as well. So if we do colors.blue, this will just kind of be our placeholder for the time being, just to show what's kind of happening here. Perfect. So now on reloading that, all of these blue containers are basically representing each one of the entries in our tasks list. So every time we go in and add one, so if I go ahead here and add a new task and I hit done, it's going to add a new list. If I do that again, it's going to add a new list item, and it's going to be separated by however large our sized box is here in our separator builder. You can also add in, again, any other kind of widget that you want to separate these task list items. So fantastic. What we're going to want to do here now is go ahead and remove this container, just because it was just a placeholder just to show that all of our view model functions are working. And we're going to want to return a list tile. So our child is going to start off with being a list tile. Now what the list tile does is it makes it pretty easy to set up the leading checkbox and also the title for the tile. So what we're going to want to do within this list tile is just go ahead and make sure that we're returning it. And then in this list tile, we can set the leading to be a checkbox, and the checkbox will have the shape of a rounded rectangle border. And again, right now we're working on that checkbox, so we want to make sure that there's a little bit of a curvature to that so it's not too squared off. And the border radius for this is going to be a border radius dot circular, and we'll just do 5. We'll keep it small since the actual checkbox itself is pretty small. And now what we're going to do after this border radius is we're going to provide a side to the checkbox as well. If we take a look at it right now, what we have, I guess the checkbox wants a couple more parameters to be filled, so let's just kind of start building this out. The checkbox is also going to take in a side, and this side is going to be a border side. And we're going to set this to have a width of 2, and we're going to set the color to be our application's view model color level 3. So underneath this side, what we're going to do is add a check color. So we're going to provide the color of our checkbox, and we're going to want that checkbox color to be our view model dot checkbox and our color level 1. The next thing we're going to do is set the active color to view model dot active color 3, and then we're going to set the value of our checkbox to our view model. And the way we're going to want to do this is by implementing another helper function within our view model that returns the completion status of a to-do list task based on the index inside of the list of tasks. So if we go back into our application's view model here, what we're going to want to do is bring in a new function that is of type Boolean, because we want to get the current state of a task's status. So we're going to say bool get task value, and then we're going to provide a task index, which is type int. So we say int task index, And then what we're going to want to do is return our tasks index. So we're going to reference our tasks here, and then we're going to pass in the task index, and then we're going to say .complete. We don't need to notify our listeners either because we are not actually changing any data here just yet, so there's no need to actually go ahead and notify our listeners. So within getTaskValue, now we're just going to be returning the task of the current task index, and again, we're just retrieving that index. We're getting that index because in our list builder, we're getting access to an index every single time a list builder item is displayed. So now we can say the value of this checkbox is going to be viewModel dot get task value, and we just go ahead and pass that index into here, and then that's how we will track the value of the task index. So the next thing we're going to want to do inside of our checkbox is provide an onChanged method that will basically update the task value every single time we tap on the checkbox. So we'll go onChanged, and then we're going to need a reference to this value because that's what we're going to set the value to. And we're going to have to go ahead and provide another method within our viewModel to update that task. So if we go back into our viewModel, what we can do is have a void method, and we'll have this be set task value, and we're going to want to reference the task index, and we're also going to want to know the value to set it to. So we'll have a bool and say task value. Next thing we're going to want to do is say tasks and then task index, and then we're going to say .complete is equal to this task value that we're bringing in from the helper within the checkbox. And because we're actually updating data here, what we're also going to want to do is we're also going to want to notify our listeners as well. So if we go back now into our task list view, every time the value of our checkbox changes when we tap on it, we're going to be calling this function. So we'll go viewModel dot set task value, and we'll pass in that index, and then we'll also pass in the current value. So currently this is a nullable type, so if we just force unwrap it, we'll be able to pass in the value that it's currently set to that way. So now if we go ahead and reload this, you can see that we have a list of checkboxes, and this list of checkboxes is again just being obtained through the list of tasks. Currently, we're not displaying the title of the tasks, but we are displaying the state of whether or not it is saved. So if we actually tap on this, you can see that it is in fact updating each task it's going to update the status of each task of whether or not it is complete or not. So we have that working, and all that's really left to do from this point within the list tile is to set the title of each list tile. So underneath our leading checkbox, we're going to set the title to be a text view. And now in that text view, we're going to want to go back into our viewModel and then create another function to return the title of a task depending on the index it is inside of our tasks list. So if we go back into our applications viewModel here, let's go ahead and create a function that's going to return a string called getTaskTitle, and it's going to need to know what the task index is to return the string. And then what we're going to do is just return tasks, which is again, we're just referencing this list of tasks that we have up here. And then we're going to pass in that task index and then just return the title. Again, because we're not actually updating anything, all we need to do is this. We don't really need to go in and notify listeners because nothing is changing in our data. So now if we go back into our task list view, our text can now obtain the title and display that in the application in the text view by using the viewModel, and then by getting the task title for the current index of the list view separated builder. So if we go ahead and save that and then reload, what we're going to see now is all of those tasks that we were adding previously that weren't actually being added or that weren't being displayed are now being displayed here. So if we go ahead and add a new one and just say task Z, hit done, you'll see that that gets added to the one at the very bottom, and this is a very scrollable list. So even if we go past the bounds that is available, we can still access it by just scrolling up and down. Perfect. So now that we have that done, all we need to start working on is the styling. So now that we have the actual data being passed back and forth, all that we need to worry about is the way we're styling this list view. So we can start by just styling the text since we're already here anyway. So after the actual text that we're putting in here, let's go ahead and provide a style for this text to be styled with. And that's just going to be a new text style. And the color of the text is going to be our view model's color level 4. We want this text to be kind of dark. The font size is just going to be 17. And our font weight is going to match what we had when we were entering in our new task, just so it's consistent and looks the same. We'll say font weight will be fontweight.w500. Now, if I save this and reload, you're going to see that the text gets a little bit bigger. The color matches the color scheme of the application, and it gets that, that width because of the font weight that we provided to it. Perfect. Now, the last thing that we're going to want to do is work on the rest of the, we're going to want to wrap each one of these actual list tiles in a container so that each one is styled the way that we expect it to be styled. So if we go to the list tile, what we can do is wrap that in a container, and that container will take in a decoration, and it will just be a new box decoration. And within that box decoration, let's provide a color, and the color is going to be our view model .color level 1, and the border radius is going to be border radius .circular .20. And if we save that and reload now, this is again starting to look a little bit more similar to what we expect it to look like when we're all done. The next thing we're going to want to do is provide some edge insets into this entire list view. So underneath the list view child, what we're going to do is provide a padding, and we're going to target the edge insets horizontally. And actually, we're going to target all of the edge insets, so it just kind of collapses the list view down a little bit. As you can see in the completed project, we kind of keep all of our edge insets in line just to make it UI design friendly. So all of the text, all of the indicator or task info section widgets, and all the widgets within the list view all kind of align into the same exact number. So what we're going to want to do is provide a padding and just say edge insets .all, and we're going to say we're just going to provide 15 here. Now if we save this and then reload, it kind of moved everything down a little bit, and we're just about good to go. The last thing we need to do is make these widgets dismissible, or these tasks dismissible. So if you take a look at the final product again, or what we expect it to look like when we're all done, each one of these widgets is dismissible by swiping on it, and we want to add that functionality here as well. So the way we're going to go ahead and do that is by wrapping the container inside of a dismissible widget. This part should be pretty simple to do. All we're going to want to do is wrap the container in a new widget, and we're going to call that widget a dismissible widget. And what we're going to provide the dismissible widget is with a key, and the key is going to just be a unique key, and we can just create one by using the unique key function, and it's just going to create a brand new key that is unique, so that way it has a way to reference the dismissible widget internally. And basically we're good to go from here. If you reload this now, you can see that you can actually start sliding this, except it's not going to really do too much, and we want to give it a bit of a background. And we also want to make sure that we're deleting the task from the view model every time that we slide this. So the way we're going to do that is by going into our dismissible widget that we had just created, and we're going to say on dismissed, we're going to take in the direction, and we're going to want to make sure that we're going into the view model, and then we have to go ahead and create a new helper function within our view model. So if we hop back into our view model, we're going to create a function that is a void because it's not going to return anything. And we're going to say delete task, and we're going to provide an index for the task. So we'll go int task index, and then what we're going to do is go tasks, and then the task at that task index. We're going to actually tasks.remove at, and then we're going to remove the task at the task index. So we are actually updating the data when we do this. We're going to be removing something from our list of tasks. So we're going to want to go ahead and notify our listeners. And when we notify our listeners, you're going to see that because I did this, you're going to see that it all kind of comes back here when we rebuilt the widget, because it never actually deleted those tasks when we were sliding them off. It just kind of removed the widget from the list of widgets that was available to the list. So what we're going to do is say on dismissed, we're going to say viewModel.delete task, and then we're just going to pass in that index again. And now what you're going to see is when we save this and then reload this, if we slide that and remove it, and then we reload the application, it's not going to recreate those widgets again. It's actually removing it from the list of tasks within our view model, and it's not just removing the widget from the list of widgets within the widget itself. So from this point on, what we're going to also want to imitate in the final product, if you take a look, whenever we're sliding on it, we kind of have a bit of an indication that something is being like an action is being performed. Right now, with what we currently have, it's not too clear as to what's going on. So what we're going to want to do is provide a background to our dismissible widget. So if we go back to our dismissible widget, underneath on dismissed, let's go ahead and provide a background. Now the background is just going to be a view or a widget that pops up to display what it is we have behind the widget when we start sliding it. So the background is just going to be a container, and the container is going to have a margin itself, and the margin is going to be an edge inset, and then it's going to be dot symmetric. It's going to be the horizontal one, and we're going to have a margin of 5. The next thing we're going to want to provide is a decoration. So the decoration here is going to be a box decoration, and here we're going to provide the color for the background view. We're going to say the color is equal to colors.red.shade 700, or shade 300, and the border radius for the entire thing is going to be border radius dot dot circular, and it's going to be about 10. Perfect. So now when we start sliding this away, we can see that there's a trailing or a leading red widget that is placed behind it to kind of give a little bit more context to the user as to like what's happening. And you can kind of assume that if you're sliding on something in a list view and something red pops up, it's going to probably delete it, right? The last thing we're going to want to do is provide a child to this red container, and that child is just going to contain an icon that's a trash icon to just kind of give the user the final confirmation that yes, you are in fact deleting something when you do this. So if we go underneath our decoration and provide a child, the child is just going to be a center, and the center is going to have a child itself. The reason why we're using a center here is so that way it puts it in the middle of the available space within this container, and the child of the center is going to be an icon, and the icon itself is just going to be icons.delete, which gives us access to this trash can icon. And if we just save this the way it is, you can see that there's now a trash can icon back there. The last thing we're going to want to do to this trash can icon is just go ahead and provide a color to it. So within this icon, let's go ahead and say color is equal to colors.red.shade 700. If we save this and reload it, what we can see is that that little trash can icon is now red, and when we swipe it, it gives us that nice little animation. And now we have our list view. Basically, our list application is basically working now. So whenever we tap this button and then add something into it, hit done, it will add that list, add that task into our list of tasks within our application's view model. And then we can go ahead and delete those by just kind of swiping on them. And that will again update the application's view model even if we save everything and then reload, you can see that that persists. So yeah, we kind of got a lot done here. In the upcoming videos, we'll be working on building out the rest of these sections, being the indicator view and the header view. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.